Good afternoon, Ukraine. Доброго дня. And welcome to the presentation of the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program in cooperation with the Ukrainian Startup Fund, powered by iHUB. I'm Steiner, the founder of Seed Forum Global. What makes Seed Forum a little bit special is that we are currently working in more than 50 countries around the world. That will exactly enable the opportunity for many of you to be accelerated, not only in what is probably as well for many of you, the biggest market in the world, the US. We have representations in San Francisco, in New York, in the upper Midwest, and in Houston, but we also work out of London, out of Germany, out of France, out of Scandinavia, out of China. We work in Singapore, we work in India, Africa, and as well Latin America. This also gives the opportunity for you not only to access international markets easily, but as well we're connecting you with our current investor network with more than 20,000 unique investors globally. We have built the Seed Forum concept during the last period of 20 years, and that means that during this period we have presented not less than 8,000 plus startups to investors in all these different countries in 40 accelerator batches. And it's also good for you to know when you hook on to the Seed Forum Accelerator program that all our expert trainers have been there, done it before, simply because we're all serial entrepreneurs with successful exits. Now, before I go further into the details about the content of the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program, I'd like to invite my friend and colleague through many years, Dmitry Podolyev of iHUB, to say some words about iHUB. Dmitry, are you with us?
Hello, Steiner. It's great to be here. Thanks a lot for giving me the word. Hello, everybody. It's great to host another webinar, and I'd definitely love to spend just a couple of minutes telling you about iHUB, what we do and what we're all about. So iHUB has actually 5 focus areas of our business, and we are one of the leading tech ecosystem players. We've been at it in Ukraine for over 8 years. The first is, of course, co-working. Many of you know about us from the 4 co-working locations we have across Ukraine and Moldova. The second line is event production. We do lots of events. Before we used to do, of course, most of the events offline. Now we do a lot of online events. The third, we build in-house startups. So when it comes down to building companies from scratch, we know the pain. We've done it before. We've failed, and we have been successful occasionally as well. The fourth, we actually started to represent e-residency of Estonia since the beginning of this year. Briefly, what e-residency is, it gives you an opportunity to work within the Eurozone from the comfort of your couch in Ukraine. You can set up a company and run it completely online, which is very easy and very affordable. And we have examples of companies that produce or manufacture goods in China, sell all across Europe on Amazon from the comfort of their office in iHUB in Kiev. And the final one is, of course, acceleration and acceleration of startups. We're very grateful to be partners of Seed Forum and to run this acceleration program, which is kindly supported by the Ukrainian Startup Fund. So iHUB has been at it for 8 years, but we haven't been alone. We've had a lot of amazing partners and friends along the way, and just to name a few, such accelerators as 500 Startups and Techstars, unicorns such as Bolt, and a number of European governments that have supported various programs, which were all aimed at supporting young entrepreneurs and early stage startup companies. So on this note, I'd like to, again, thank everyone participating. Don't forget, we have a Q&A, so please be active and ask any questions to us and to our partners at Seed Forum. And Steiner, thanks a lot for having me, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Dmitry. It's very good to be on board, and I'm very happy to work with Ukraine, which I personally have done for many years already, and very shortly to explain the content of how the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program works and will assist you. The program has 4 main sections and 15 action points, whereof each of those 15 action points have a clear output for you. We're providing a good amount of interactive digital trainings, not webinars, because we're not really the lecture guys. We really want to interact with you. And there is a weekly contact point with all startups involved in each batch. This means that we're able to provide in the 4 different sections also a personal expert coach for you, for those of you who would need that. The first section of the program is the business conceptual support part, which contains, first of all, our support to your final conclusion of the business concept. And simply that you're really, with your business concept, filling out the gap, a need, a problem in the market, in international markets. And as well that you have the right timing to which international markets with your business concept. Secondly, we would like to assist you as well to build really your team to an international successful team. It might be that you do not yet have international team members, so we might be able to connect you with that from different countries around the world, and as well to secure that you have doers on board in your team. And as well, it might also be good for you to have, who knows, someone in your team also with previous exit experience, who've been there, done it before. We will assist you with your go-to-market strategy, as well with your competitive metric strategy, alternatively first mover strategy, and as well to gain the highest possible speed in your traction. That's the business conceptual support part of the program. And then the next section of the program is the financial part, where we first of all work with your business model, so that you have a business model which is as disruptive enough to be able to succeed, hopefully, in international markets. And as well, we work with your capital need modeling, at least for the 3 years to come. This also means, both as a part of your financial strategy, we also need to work with you with regards to your ownership strategy. So when you collect more money from investors as you go along, it means that you're hopefully not going to be diluted too much. That's the ownership strategy. And also in terms of the exit strategy and value drivers planning, the whole point is to see if there is a possibility for you to avoid valuation, and the tools for that are the value drivers or the parameters for growth, or the answers from investors how to invest in you. We'll come back to that in just a moment. The third section of the program is to conclude the investment memorandum. In Seed Forum, we work with investors to see about the opportunity to raise funds through the acceleration programs for you. And the thing we work with as well, in addition to securing the investment memorandum itself, is at this stage to also secure your intellectual property strategy, your design strategy. And we regularly also need to assist you in terms of securing some, I would say, legal stuff in terms of further actions towards investors. The fourth stage is what we call the action stage. This is, first of all, where we run a pitch training for you to secure that you are as investor ready as possible when you meet investors. And that's the next stage. That's the Seed Forum digital investor forums, where you present to international investors. That's the demo day. And finally, as well, for those of you who would need, it might be that we also shall assist you in running a crowdfunding campaign as part of the accelerator program. This ends with the main 2 aims for you to be a part of the program. First of all, it is to launch your business in international markets. And secondly, to raise at least 50%, maybe even 100% of your current capital need. That's the main outcome of the program. I'm very happy to work together with a great team in the opportunity to assist US Ukrainian startups. Together with me, I have Frode, I have Dimitri, you already heard from him, Frode you will hear from in a minute, and as well Vadim and Olena from iHUB. And today, I'm also bringing along 4 great international experts. And the first expert I would like to introduce to you is Frode. He is currently in Norway, but regularly resides in Latin America, in Panama. And Frode, who are you and why are you a part of the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program?
Excellent. Everyone can hear me, yes? Yes, thank you so much for the introduction, Steinar. I'm delighted and happy to be here. My name is Frode Sønstebø. I'm a serial entrepreneur and business angel, and as well as a team member and expert of the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program. And as Steinar just said, I normally or currently work out of Panama, currently in Norway because of the whole situation. And Panama and Latin America, and I've spent at least 8 years there in the total American region. I first started as an entrepreneur by attending Seed Forum Global many years back, which further made the pathway for me becoming an international serial entrepreneur. I'm very happy to share my startup knowledge, especially from the American part of the world, from my experiences as an entrepreneur in the United States and Latin America. And I'm dedicated to bring a lot of international business and startup experience to the table.
Thank you very much, Frode. Our next expert we're bringing along today is Tord Eide. And Tord, you're regularly in the US, not at the moment, still because of the current Corona situation. And Tord, who are you and why are you a part of the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program as an expert? Tord, you need to unmute. Tord, you need to unmute. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you, Steinar. I'm a better legal expert than a computer expert. I'm very glad to be here. I have worked as a partner in DLA Piper, the world's largest law firm, for 24 years. Have more than 30 years behind me in the legal business in Scandinavia and also in the US and Switzerland. And one of my specialties has been to help out startup companies, and I've started some companies on my own. And my expertise comes from helping companies grow and get listed, and in some cases not grow at all and fail. So I've experienced the whole range of what you as startups can expect ahead. And I think this expertise will certainly be valuable for all of you. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Tord. Dimitri, you're also with us as an expert. Would you like to say just a couple of words about who you are?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Yeah, my name is Dimitri and I'm the founder of iHUB. My background is originally actually in electrical engineering and computer science. I went to Cambridge and MIT and studied that, but as most good engineers, my early years of career have been in investment banking in London. But since then, I've been involved with startups for over 8 years. I have successfully failed on multiple occasions, and I did have some successes in my previous startups and actually one fairly good exit. I'm currently working also on our next startup, which is called Mindly, which is an online platform for online consultations with psychologists. And we started fairly recently, and we're growing fairly rapidly, in part thanks to the global pandemic. So I do know the challenges of building a company from scratch. I'm doing pretty much a marketplace, which is building 2 companies from scratch. So it's twice as hard. And I have been fortunate to raise some money with previous cases, but I'm also I have been exposed to building the ecosystem and building the community as part of my work with iHUB. So I know both sides of being an entrepreneur, but also being on the organization side and helping entrepreneurs succeed, whether it's raising capital or finding partners or getting your team off the ground. So definitely always happy to speak to like-minded people and help wherever I can. Back to you, Steinar.
Dimitri, thank you so much. We're also we're joined by Christian Rangen a little bit later during the presentations. and he'll hook on later. So right now, the topic is to introduce you to growth parameters. We're focusing in the presentation about how basically to build a growth company for international markets. And this in our in the Seed from Global Accelerator program stands out as what we call the value drivers, or better, the parameters for growth, or as even the answers to the question, how should investors invest in you? Why should investors invest in you? I'll give you some preliminary examples before we again involve the experts. It might, for instance, be that you are in a market and the market grows so much it becomes driving the value of the company. It might be that your team already is so good that it will be a success that drives the value of your company. You have enough commercial competence in the team. You have to do people in your team. You already have someone in your team that is that has previous exit experience. Then your team is okay, right? That brings, you know, the value along for your company in terms of the team. It might be that you have a scalable business model. It might be that you already have a good economy, a positive equity in your balance sheet already. It might be that you are in the first mover situation. It might be that you are in business already with revenue, so you have a commercial proof of concept. But in the case you're still in product or service development, that's absolutely fine. But then growth-wise, you would need to pitch to investors that you have as possible shortest time to market. In terms of the business model, it might be disruptive. That would bring the values along. It might be that you already have recurring revenues, a subscription model, parallel or multiple revenue streams, and so forth. That could be driving the value in terms of your business model. It might be that you're entering into a market where there already is or will be legal requirements for your business. That's a wonderful value drivers, and several others. These are just some preliminary examples to set the agenda for the seminar. Many value drivers are already in your startup. You just need to find them, detect them, and work with them. But it might also be that some of them could be detected, not only detected, but also evolved. And by that, I would like to ask the first question today to our experts. And let's start with Frode. From the list I just mentioned of growth parameters, or any other growth parameter you would think about, which one would you think would be the most important one from your experience as a serial entrepreneur in international markets?
Well, it's a good question because there's several to pick from, but I will talk about something that I had a recent experience from, and that is the importance of multiple revenue streams. And the reason is when you start your business, you could be in danger of being taken over. Let's say there is additional competition coming on. Let's say you're launching in another country and so on. And it could be just a general change in market, for instance, you know, the increase of freemium approach and so on. If you have only consider one revenue stream to your business, that could possibly endanger your business. So to have something additional on top of that, I think that would be very important to have as a base in a growth company, basically. It could be, for instance, a subscription model as a base, and then you have other things that you can pop into it.
Thank you very much, Frode. Let's ask Tord. Tord, what would you think would be the most important parameter to create an international growth company?
Well, timing is one thing. Hard work is another, and you certainly need a product that is needed by your potential customers. In my experience, being a first mover is not necessarily the best thing. I'll give you one example. 25 years ago, I was part of a team that started up selling food via the internet in Scandinavia. We were the first movers, and we had tons of customers, and it was a smashing success, except for the fact that none of the wholesalers wanted to sell food to us. So it was a failure. Today, during the pandemic, this market has grown tremendously. So being a first mover is not necessarily the best thing, but you need to find a product that people want, and work with that from that point of view. And you also.
Well, thank you. Please continue if you have something more to say, Tord.
No, I think I've covered this pretty well.
All right. May I ask you, Dimitri, with your experiences as a serial entrepreneur, where would you focus, on which parameters? How would you think to actually build a international growth company? And if I understand, you're right now doing exactly that.
Well, Stan, I don't know if I'm a great example of a serial entrepreneur. I'm actually in a car driving from the hospital because I had an operation recently, so they removed my stitches. So I'm not actually in the office. If you haven't figured that out already, but I think one of the main things that I would advise to startups, and this is something that successful entrepreneurs have advised to me in the past, is think how you're going to attract your customers early on without paid channels. So a lot of people want to very quickly jump on the bandwagon of, okay, let's raise a lot of money and pay Facebook and Google for advertising because this is where our customers are going to come from. Now, that's all and fine, and you can grow this way, but usually it's very difficult and expensive to grow this way, especially early on when you have no idea who your ideal customer is. If you don't have a clear idea of who your ideal customer is, there's no way you can efficiently use real money and Facebook and Google advertising. So also you have to understand that paid channels are something of once you remove your foot from the gas, as in like you stop putting money there, the effect stops. If you start early on and start working with organic traffic, so actually start building small but loyal following, be it a blog, be it your Instagram channel, from the new media channels like TikTok, Facebook to the lesser extent, messaging channels like Telegram and Viber, and build up your audience person by person. Now, that's going to go slow, but these will be your real customers. So you're going to get a really good idea of who your real customers are, who have been with you over the course of weeks and months. And this kind of organic growth is, while slow and challenging and hard, it's going to have increasing multiplier effects further down the line, and it's going to have an acceleration effect. And once you actually figure out your product market fit, your customer persona, you can slightly, put the pedal to the metal with some advertising and really further fuel your organic growth. Then you're going to have your lift off. So my advice, think about organic audience SEO. Don't rush. Don't look for, millions and hundreds of thousands of users. Start with one person who is your customer, then a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth. You get the point, and you continue this way until you get to your first 1,000. So that's my advice.
Thank you very much, Dimitri. Let's just shortly continue with the next question. Just follow up. How much do you think, Tord, that the team is important for success, for growth?
I think it's the most important thing you can work with. I think the team is more important than what you actually have to sell, because a great team can sell a mediocre product and always sell a perfect product. But a team is really, really important, and the team has to be flexible. Back to what Dimitri was just saying, you need to make a plan before you start, but you have to make sure that you don't necessarily follow the plan all the way through. I've never seen a plan that worked that fit everything you want to do. So you have to find your customers, and you'll find out the customers may not want exactly what you thought they wanted. So you need to change. You need to adapt. And to do that, you have to have a team, a good team.
Thank you. What's your view on the team, Frode? How much does the team, the success, the growth depends on the team?
I forgot to unmute. Yeah, there I am. I think it's extremely important that you find a partner, a team that is a perfect fit. I think also on the way, if you're an, let's say a CEO or an early stage company that doesn't really have that much experience with it, to perhaps talk with people who are in the field. It could be friends, it could be potential clients, it could be a part of your advisory board, and build an advisory board early on. In order to help you on the way. So, but team, you can have, the black sheeps in the team that's going to run everything down. You're going to have the ones who will see the something similar to what you do, and you can actually benefit from it and be very efficient on building your startup. It's extremely important. Yeah.
Wonderful. I can see that we have our next expert with us, Christian Rangen. And before we invite you to comment, could you please just tell us who you are and why have you connected with the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program, right? Just a very short introduction.
Steinar, thank you for the question. I am privileged to be here. So I work with startups from ID stage all the way up to IPO and happy exit. I do a lot of work around the strategy and the financing. And I think this is one of the best networks and one of the best associations in the world to be doing that.
Thank you very much. Christian, we're commenting and we're discussing the growth parameters, the value drivers as the, let's call them cross-cutting issues, right? To repeat myself, through the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program. And if I just would ask you, what would you think would be, or is the main parameter for growth? I mean, where should one of our Ukrainian startup friends actually really focus to build an international growth success out of their startup company?
That is a great question. And I don't think there is one quick answer that applies to everyone. It depends on your business model. I mean, do you have a SaaS-based business model, which naturally is very scalable through social media channels? Do you have a hardware and software approach, which requires more manufacturing logistics? Do you have more of a B2B? So it really depends. But what I like to see is define some key metrics and then just focus really hard and stay on those metrics throughout. But it really depends.
We'll hear from you again, Christian, in just a moment with a short presentation or some of the tools, or one of the tools that will actually be empowering in the accelerator program. But let me just again then ask all the experts before the show is yours, Christian. Is how crucial is a disruptive business model for growth success? Dimitri, do you have any input for that?
So, I mean, business model is obviously super important, but like my advice, don't, especially if you're super early stage, don't dwell too much on the business model, because more likely as you grow along the way, it's going to develop. So it's totally fine to kind of start with one concept of a business model to see if it actually works out or not. In many cases, it doesn't play out. This doesn't work. It can become your like secondary or tertiary like revenue source. So do consider kind of business model as an important factor, but also understand that it can be something flexible, and it's very likely that it will evolve as your team, as your startup also evolves. So, you know, as an example, even with Mindly and our startup, I mean, original business model was, okay, let's just take, you know, a small commission from all the online consultations, you know, that easy, that simple. Everybody else does it in other economic areas. But then as we start to kind of grow and evolve, we see that, okay, maybe this could be some kind of a SaaS solution for the professionals. Maybe we can have an Amazon-like, you know, subscription model where, for example, you know, some services are going to be provided free of charge or with a significant discount, as long as, you know, we can lock people in for a year. So, you know, this actually comes back to, I think, to Froda's concept of make sure you have several business models and several revenue sources under your sleeve. Early stage, you're not sure which one is going to work out, and that's totally fine. Part of the startup is to refine the product, to find product market fit, and to find the best revenue model that is going to make you millions. That's it.
Frode, do you have a short comment? How important from your view out of, let's say, the US standpoint, where you actually work in the Americas, right? How important is a disruptive business model for growth?
First of all, I think disruptive has become this fancy word that is easily misunderstood, or there's some misconception around it. A lot of people think they have to invent a new wheel in order to manage to be disruptive. But I think in order to disrupt international markets, especially, you rarely need this, this inventive wheel kind of idea. Usually there are just smaller evolutionary changes to the existing products or services that you give, and basically how your customer is perceiving your product, if this actually gives a better value than what is already existing. So if can your company then work to develop products or services that meet the performance demanded by customers at a lower price, or perhaps you deliver a faster service, it could be higher quality, it could be more efficient, and so on, and this is also another thing. There could be something that is disruptive in one country, but is not disrupting in your own country. So you might have to look different when you start exiting, or you're going to establish your business outside.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Todd, you have a very short comment before we start the Christian's show.
Yeah, well, I agree with Frode that the word disruptive is abused and should not be used that much. I mean, focus on creating your business locally first, and locally it may be a big area, but focus on that. Being disruptive is something that you may become after a while, but don't focus on that.
Thank you. Christian, in a way, I think about you as scale-up expert. Scaling up, that's about growth, right? And to my opinion, as starting 17 startups and at least 5 quite successful exits in my life, I've already thought about, scale up doesn't start really as what we consider a scale up. It starts, from day one. What do you think? And how will you be able to introduce, your scale up thinking and competence into the program, right? And I hope that it would also be a possibility for you to share a little bit of your tools to tease our viewers, so that they will tag on to the Seed Forum Global Accelerator Program. Christian.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steinar. So I'm gonna start with a quick story, and I want to build on what you said. So it's really about how do we grow and how do we scale, and a big part of that is also how do you create value, and how does the value story fit into your startup and scale up story. So I'm going to go through a couple of slides really quickly on a hardware startup that created 500 million in less than 4 years. So 500 million US in less than 4 years doing this. And I don't know, Steinar, have you ever tried one of these?
Not really. I don't think my body is shaped well enough for that.
It would probably be good, or at least this is good, because this story that I'm going to share very quickly is a superstar founder with a superstar return. And for all of you guys listening, that's what you want to get to. If you can get to a place where you produce superstar return back to your investors, now you're going to be in a happy place, and you can buy a lot of cool toys. So this is a story of how a former ballerina turned Mirror hardware and software company into not only 3 million, but actually a 500 million exit in less than 4 years. So for those of you that are not following this space, and of course you should, you basically have Peloton, the sit at home and ride your bike, and you have Mirror, which is your in-home training gym. Here she is, her name is Bryn, and she started, built, and sold this for 500 million in less than 4 years. But how did she do it? So I'm going to introduce to you what we call the long-term funding roadmap. We're going to show you one bigger piece in just a second. But basically, this is how you map out the financing part of your scale-up journey. So you can see here that she did 2.8 million in 2016 at a super early stage at a pretty low valuation, 20 to 40 million. She had a single investor, a small VC fund come in. And that was rocket fuel for the first financing. Boom, she raises 13 million. Now notice what happens here. So here she has 13 million at quite a big valuation range. But notice here, and this is really important because now she's building up a really, really strong cap table. So she's bringing in investors that can help her build the company. And you can see here she has multiple VC firms and one family office. Time goes by. She now has a 200 million US valuation pre-launch. And I don't know about you, Frode, but that's the kind of sexy pre-launch valuations we like to see for fast-growing companies. She does another round, 25 million at 200. Boom, she gets another round, 300. And notice what happens here. Now she's raising 25 million at a 300 million valuation, which is a decent dilution rate. She has a strong lineup of investors and 3 business angels come in for the first time. Then a couple of months later, boom, Lululemon buys Mirror for 500 million, gets a happy exit. I'm going to close out with this part, the numbers. So company founded in 2016, product launched in 18, exit in June 2020, for 140 employees. So the revenue was pretty high, but she created, look at this. This is gold right here, my friends. You got to know this stuff. She created 370 million in exit value for her investors. Now, if you want to work with scale-ups, you need to understand what are the mechanisms for making that happen. What does it mean to take in early stage investors and basically build value over time so that your investors can come out and say, you know, wow, this was a fairy tale story, but it's a real life story. So next, I'm going to show you in just 1 minute the process of, you know, how do we do this? How do we learn this? What does that stuff even mean? So here you have a number of different tools and canvases that we have developed that we work with. We train and practice with startups to really master these. So we have different tools for investor segmentations, for scale-up strategies, for developing funding roadmaps, for analyzing investors, for analyzing your startup. And last point from my end, Steinar, is, as you know, we have built a super cool online digital simulation that allows any investor, any business angel, any startup, any scale-up, any board member to really learn what does it really mean to build a scale-up strategy, what does it mean to build a capital strategy, and how should we be thinking about our first investors, our second investors, and eventually our 50th investors as we're raising our C, D, and hopefully in happy exit IPO scenario. So these are things that I work with on a daily basis. Right now, like right this minute, I have a program running in Norway, so I'm jumping from Norway to the UK back. But I'm super excited to get a chance to work with you and help many more of you think about what does our scale-up strategy look like, what does our capital strategy look like, and how do we create value for ourselves and for our investors. Steinar, back to you.
Thank you very much, Christian, for this very good introduction. And we're open for Q&As. You're utmost welcome to ask questions in the Q&A module. Christian, may I ask you, from all your experience from assisting startups, then from quite a few countries around the world, again, back to where we started, the growth parameters. By using these tools, if you were starting a startup now from the point of residing in Ukraine, how would you do that? What would you think? How would you access international markets, kind of step by step? How would you do it?
I mean, that is a great question. It's also a big question. So I'll go back to the basics. You know, what is the problem you're addressing? What is your early solution? Is this a local problem? Is this a regional problem, or is it a global problem? Do you have a local, regional, global solution? Do you have scalability in your business model? Do you have only software? I mean, obviously, scaling software companies is a lot easier, but we also have a lot of experience with scaling hardware companies, or maybe you have more of a service plus software, like a more of a Salesforce model. So it really depends on your business model. But then as you start going out, you need to start attracting international board members, international team members, and you need to build a much more international team, probably much faster than you were expecting. And then eventually you'll probably realize that to raise series financing, you need to move your headquarters to a different location, whether that's in Berlin, in London, New York, and San Francisco. So, you know, that international journey is just a natural part of the overall journey. But to wrap up, you know, you need to have a good understanding of the market size. You need to have a good understanding of the exit landscape. You need to have a good understanding of what does our business model look like, all important stuff.
I would love to elaborate on that one, because I have my a lot of my startup experience from Latin America, and as a Norwegian, I didn't start in Norway as well as I started over in Latin America. And when we developed products over in Latin America, and we had a price point, and then we wanted to launch in another market, which was my own kind of market, but it was back in Norway. The customer said no because we were too cheap. You know, we had a raised price point in Latin America. In Norway, they thought we were, what is this? I mean, like, you promise all this stuff for that price? No, that we're not going to go for that. You know, you need to increase your price. So, I mean, like, what are the experiences?
Paul, any comments, any input from you on this?
Well, I think the cultural aspect is extremely important, because different markets are different. Simple as that. And you have different traditions in what people buy and what people like, but also how you do your business. So focusing on getting your feet up and running is first step. And then you have to figure out the next step you want to take. Where do you want to go? And then you have to add on your expertise on top of that. And a lot of that expertise is going to be your own experiences, on good or bad terms. So a lot of those experiences will cost you money. So ask for help. Get the best people you can to help you, and make the road a lot shorter than otherwise it would be.
Dimitri, do you have any comments to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can definitely agree with all the previous speakers and all the previous comments. What I would love to add is that in today's market, everything is super hyper local, while at the same time being global. So with not maybe with all the businesses, but with many businesses, I would say with the vast majority of businesses, you should always think local to begin with. You know, find your customers, find your early demographic, find your early, you know, city, country, and do a great job there, and then try to scale. You know, in today's world, there are very few companies that are just like copy paste across the world, and even Facebook, you know, they're running, you know, multiple tests at the same time with different audiences. And you know, maybe another good example is McDonald's, right? In one part, I would say McDonald's is super the same everywhere, but if you look at the menus, it still is different based on each country, each culture, and each geography. So if you want to build a global company, first you have to think local and build a great local product, and then scale.
Let me ask you another question, Frode. How much, from your point of view, would you think that uniqueness, IP, has to do in terms of growth?
Yeah, that is a good question. And again, we're coming a little bit back to the disruptiveness in the markets and so on. I think one question that, and probably Tord is the expert on this part because it's more of a legal aspect. But when it comes to like, should you patent, you know, you want to go through the process of actually, you know, making patents of what you're doing, and a lot of companies that choose to do that, even though they're spending a lot of the company money in order to secure their position in the market, basically. And that is both expensive, it takes a long time, and in the end, if you get to a situation where somebody's copying your product, you can't follow up on that. You know, you don't have the money to actually to attack the copier. I don't know, but just like a sideline on the whole uniqueness and within more of the property, the intellectual property, and all that stuff.
Christian, as a final question for you today, you're on the runner modus today. Any view from you with regards to intellectual property, uniqueness? How important is that in terms of international growth?
No, great question. Of course it is, and it also depends. So if you look, for example, on digital whiteboards like Miro and Mural, there's a very low threshold to copying. They are kind of similar. Most good developers can code and build the same product, but they've been really good at the brand building, the user growth. So I think that being defensive is a little bit less important, but applying a quick to market growth is more important. And then on a final note, I love what Elon Musk did in terms of opening up his patent, but of course there's a much bigger strategic rationale behind it. So it's important, but speed to market, getting user growth, grow your community, and build from there.
Tord, you're the legal expert here today, and probably the most restrictive of all of us when it comes to protecting your IP, or aren't you?
Well, it all depends. I agree with the speakers ahead of me now. The situation is impossible to give one strict answer to. It's simply too complex. In many cases, like Frode mentioned, having a patent may not help you, because suing somebody bigger than you for breach of patent may cost you several $1 million that you don't have, and takes many years and may ruin your market. So in that case, a black box operation, if that's possible, may be better suited. In other cases, having a patent will help you. Getting market traction, getting a big market quickly also helps you a lot. That's easier said than done. But if you can do that, that is certainly a fantastic strategy. Otherwise, you have to be alert. You have to keep track of your competitors and what they're doing, and make sure they're not stealing your stuff. It's complex.
Dimitri, any comments to you as well from the point of view of uniqueness?
Well, I mean, obviously you want your product to be unique, and if you have IP, it's great to protect it. It is a challenge. It is expensive. The companies that I've had the pleasure of working with and just being friends with, in the vast majority of cases, I would say 9 out of 10 cases, their uniqueness, their value was not really in the IP, but in other things like, you know, audience, access to customers, unique product market fit, market approach, you know, customer base. So these are other values that have no less, maybe at times even more value. You know, think about Instagram or Facebook. You know, they don't, at the start they didn't really have any IP as such, but they had a lot of value in terms of their user numbers and the engagement. So in the rare cases where you do have IP, I think it's always great to find an expert, a great lawyer, and actually, you know, not conserve money on that and secure it if you have it. But it's more of a kind of a 10% case that you do have some kind of IP that you can legally secure. In the vast majority of cases that I see,
It's other value drivers that play a big role, and it's very hard to patent or secure them in any way.
Well, it's time for me as the moderator to thank all our experts for joining today. We have run the webinar now for 50 minutes and it's time for us to go. But we're really looking forward to the opportunity of further contacts with you all participants. Please do not hesitate to liaise with the iHUB team to hook on and tag along to the Seed Forum Global Accelerator program. And we're going to be back as well just in a couple of days with another webinar where we also focus on another very interesting topics, also with some other great experts from our global program. I see that there is currently one question. Let's see if we can take that just before we end the show. Yes, let me ask this question to you, Tord. What are the main values for a building company? And it's one of our good startups in Ukraine who's asking that, the main values for a building company. Could you say something about that?
I can try. It's sort of it's a very difficult question, but design is one thing. Safety, that's another issue, and delivery on time.
Probably any comments? Any input?
If the values for building a company or building company?
A building company.
Building a construction company, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. For a construction company, the main values, well, in order, at least for this conversation, we're talking about, internationalization, all that stuff. I presume, there's going to be some things to research immediately when you're going on into other markets. I presume if you're going to go into the construction work, if you can even operate there and all that stuff, being a foreigner and so on. But that's all I have to say, basically. Yeah.
Dear experts, thank you very much for joining us, and to all our listeners and viewers, thank you as well very much for joining. Please don't hesitate to be in good contact with the iHUB team for tagging along to the Seed Forum Global Program. Our LinkedIn profiles are all available, so don't hesitate as well to contact all of us directly in LinkedIn. I believe you already made notes of our names, so you'll find us easily in LinkedIn. And we'll see you again shortly. And by that, thank you very much to the iHUB team for great event management, and as well, Dimitri, bring our greeting along to all your team in Kiev. And yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise.